Ngeba Sojola here. In this video, we'll be basically discussing a mineral which is found in South Africa. This mineral is basically known as manganese, right? Now, it is believed that South Africa has about 80% of the world's reserves of this mineral, right? And the type of concentration that you find in the ore that is in South Africa is quite high, right? It is known that the manganese ore, which you find in South Africa, right, has a percentage of about 45% to about 60% of manganese contained in an ore body, right? So basically meaning that it is of high concentration and it is of high quality. Now, we refer to manganese as strategic, right? Because it sits at the center of, I'd say, two basic revolutions, right? The first type of revolution that it sits in, right, is that of infrastructure, right? Global infrastructure. People building bridges, skyscrapers, developing their economies, setting up railways and things like that, right? Manganese is at the center of that, right? And also, manganese is at the center of the green revolution, right? South Africa has the opportunity, right, to sit right in the center of the battery minerals green revolution. Now, because of this, right, South Africa can be able to control this market in a very dominant way, right? Now, South Africa can do this in a number of ways, right? But the most prominent way they can do this is to dominate the value chain of manganese, right? Now, when I say dominate the value chain of manganese, is basically try and control to some extent, right? um, each process of the value chain, right? Because South Africa has huge deposits of this manganese ore, right? They can be a very dominant player in terms of mining, right? Be it open cast mining or underground mining, by virtue of the fact that there's a high number of concentrate of manganese in South Africa, South Africa basically can become a mining giant in this regard, right? Create jobs in the mining sector. But I think we have been dominating this market through mining, but it is time for South Africa to move on to the next two stages of controlling the value chain, right? Moving from just being a producer of resources, right, to the second and third stage of industrialization and basically the value chain, right? I am talking about benefit beneficification of this mineral, right? Through processing of the ore and producing a purified version of the manganese, right? That is supplied from the ground, right? So there can be processes that basically crush, purify, and basically produce a pure version of um, manganese so that they can supply to the market, right? That is only the second stage, the beneficiation of manganese, right? The third stage is basically producing products which are made from manganese, right? The most simple object, right? Or the most simple thing that we use manganese in is in our bodies, right? We use manganese as a supplement. Manganese is good for to promote an efficient metabolism and to help certain functions of the body um, perform well, right? So this is one of the functions of um, manganese, and it can be used for that, right? It can be used in the human body. And number three, right? Well, not number three. You can also use manganese, right, to create finished products which are used in heavy industries, industries like mining, manufacturing, right, battery, electrical vehicles, and all of that, right? So manganese can be a very strategic and very prosperous mineral that South Africa can tap into. Right now, I'll just mention about two things in which you can use manganese for, and they are as follows. Now, the first most important industry in which manganese is used is in the steel making industry, right? About 90% of all manganese that is produced, right, mined out of the ground, it is fundamentally used in the steel making industry, right? About 30% of this 90 percent, right, is used in during refining iron ore, right? When you refine iron ore, you basically produce a steel. You produce steel as a product, right? About 30% of the 90% is used in refining and processing, right? About 70% of all manganese, right, that you find in the steel industry is used in alloying materials, basically mixing materials together, right? You can mix manganese with steel to produce a certain desired mechanical property, right? You can mix or alloy, create an alloy material that is a combination of manganese and aluminum, for instance, manganese and copper. But particularly in this video, we are focused on manganese and steel. Now, when we look at the mixing ratios, right, you basically find a number of ratios that you can mix the manganese with steel with, right? But when we look at the weight, right, you are only allowed to mix about 6 kilograms to about 90, not 90, 6 kilograms to about 9 kilograms of manganese, right? Mixing it to about 1 ton of steel, right? To produce various mechanical properties like ductility, right? When a material is ductile, it can be used in infrastructure. It means that it has the ability to absorb energy if a failure occurs, right? It also has the ability um, to be shaped easily and be malleable easily, right? So this is one of the mechanical properties that manganese can produce. Another mechanical property that manganese can produce through a varied addition of manganese in the steel, right, is it has the ability to produce a high yield steel, right? A high yield strength steel, right? A very strong steel that can deal with various elements in a very uh, performance based way, right? So when you add different amounts of manganese into a steel, you have the ability to achieve various mechanical properties. Another type of property is it can stand against abrasion, right? It is good when it comes to friction, right? It is also an impact resistant material, right? And it um, it has anti-corrosion properties, right? Or anti-rust properties. And I would say the last mechanical property I would say is that it can create a very hard material, right, which cannot be destroyed easily or cannot be subjected to failure easily. The second most important industry that you can use manganese in is the industry which has quite recently developed, right? Which is being dominated by Tesla, right? This industry is known as the electrical vehicle industry, the EV industry, but particularly we'll be focusing on the use of manganese in the battery, right? Now, if you use manganese as a cathode material, right, it helps improve the stability of the lithium ion battery, right? So it does this in a number of ways, right? The first way it does this, right, to improve the stability of the lithium ion battery is by basically lowering the battery's combustibility, right? Now, I'm sure you have seen videos of Teslas burning up everywhere, right? Maybe fire within the Tesla. The Tesla is parked at some grocery shop and it starts burning. There are a lot of images and photos and videos of that on the internet. You can check that out. It is because lithium is quite a reactive material, especially when it starts to increase in temperature, right? Heat can convert into a direct flame, right? So, to reduce this possibility, you can add manganese as a cathode material, right? Which helps lower the battery's combustibility. Number two, manganese basically can increase the storage capacity of the lithium ion battery, right? So basically, it means that you can store more energy within this manganese cathode based battery, right? Which basically assists to create stability in the lithium ion battery. And number three is basically the improve of distant range, right? If you use manganese within the battery system that contains the lithium ion batteries, right? And you use it as a cathode, right? It will help improve the distance in which the car or the electrical vehicle can travel, right? So these are the various advantages of using manganese in the electrical vehicle industry, right? So the amount of manganese which will be used in these batteries, right, in terms of weight, right, takes about 61% of the battery, right? So if you have a battery that is 100%, 61% in terms of weight, right, will come from manganese, right? And then the other combination of minerals, let's say it would be a lithium, right, manganese, cobalt battery, or a nickel, manganese, oxide battery, right? But the addition of manganese improves the performance and the basic structure of the battery,